Hey guys, here we are in our third video of lesson 13. And in your classwork book, we are on number 3, as you can see on the board. I'm just going to say that we've been talking about a lot of different ways to subtract mixed numbers, right? And the standard that we're working on is to estimate sums and differences of fractions or mixed numbers mentally, assess the reasonableness, and add and subtract mixed numbers with unlike units. So that's what we're working on. And we're looking at a lot of different ways to do it. I just want to address that there is another way that we haven't talked about yet. And it's probably the way like your parents thought of doing it and were taught to do it. And it's renaming, just a straightforward kind of way of renaming. So let me just show you that. And then I'll show you the different methods that we're talking about in the book. The reason that we're talking about different methods in the book is because, as always, we're growing our brains, growing our dendrites, and understanding numbers in different ways. Okay, so let's just start with this one, 8 1/4 minus 5 7/12. So first of all, we notice that here we have fourths and here we have twelfths. Well, yeah, that's a problem. So we need to have them both be twelfths, right? So how do we change 1/4 to twelfths? Well, we make our frame that we always use for 1/4, and we multiply it times 3/3, and that is going to equal 3/12, right? 1/4 is the same as 3/12. When we are adding and subtracting fractions, we always have to have the same denominator, whether they are in a mixed number or whether they are by themselves. Sorry about that. That does not look very much like a 3. There we go. 3/12. Okay. And we're subtracting 5 7/12. So now that we have them all as twelfths, do you see another problem? I hope you do see another problem. That is that 3/12 minus 7/12, right? The first number in subtraction always has to be bigger than the second number in subtraction. So how can we do this? Well, like I said, we're going to talk about a lot of different ways. We have been talking about a lot of different ways. But another way is to borrow from your whole number, right? So we're going to change our 8 to a 7. What's going to happen to that one that we took away? It's 12/12, right? 12/12. So instead of 8, it's 7 12/12. And then we're just going to add it to the 3/12. We're basically just putting it together, right? So now instead of 8 3/12, we have 7 15/12. Do you see how I put that together? Right? I just took the 1 away from the 8 and put it onto the fraction. Now, why did I do that? So that I can easily subtract 5 7/12, right? Remember, I couldn't do it before because my 3 was smaller than my 7, right? Cannot do 3 minus 7. Can I do 15 minus 7? Well, sure I can. Okay, so let's do the whole number. 5 minus 7 is 2, and 15 minus 7 is 8. So then I have 2 8/12. Okay, and you are writing this down in your book. Make sure that you're getting these notes copied down. Make sure that you're clearly showing this borrowing right here. All right, as neat as possible. Now I'm going to show you the other methods that we have been talking about in the book. I just kind of wanted to go over that one because it's not in the book and I feel like it's fairly straightforward. You can see exactly what you're doing here because sometimes we can get confused with those other things. Okay, if you don't have this copied down, get it copied down. Pause me here because I'm going to erase it. Okay, awesome job. All right, well, I didn't erase it, but let's go over here to these other methods. All right, so 8 1/4 minus 5 7/12. Make them both into twelfths, right? Just like we did on our last picture. And now we have 8 minus 5 is 3. and 3/12 minus 7/12. We still have that problem. We took care of the whole numbers, but we still have the fractions. So then this method is to change by breaking your, right? We took the 1 out. Okay, do you see that? So 2 and 3/12 and 1. Now 2 and 3/12 plus 5/12. Well, where did that 5/12 come from? The 5/12 came from 3/12 and 12/12, and what's left over, 12/12 minus 7/12. Okay, so you see how I don't really love that method because it's not very clear exactly what they're doing there, right? So they took this 1 out of the 3, they subtracted the 7/12, and that's how you got the 5/12 left over. Okay, let's look at another way to do it, which is same problem, same changing them both to 12ths. Now we're breaking the 7/12 into 3/12 and 4/12. Just breaking it into two parts, right? Because 3 plus 4 is 7. This works because 3/12 minus 3/12, and then we just have the 4/12 left. So then 3 minus 4/12 is 2 and 8/12. I kind of like this method because you can see what you're doing here. All right. Still could be a little bit confusing. Then we have breaking our 5 and 7/12 into 3 parts. Why 3/12 and 4/12? Because 3/12. Okay. So obviously they're already changed to 12ths. Break them into 3 parts. And we could use the number line starting at 8 and 3/12. Take away 3/12. All right. Got rid of the 3/12. Now we're at 8. Take away the 5. And then take away 4/12, jumping back to 2 and 8/12. Okay, I kind of like that method. You can cross off these as you jump backwards. If you're not using a number line, though, it could be a little confusing. Okay, all right. Let's try one more. We're going to go back to our slides. There we go. We're going to go to number 4 in your book. All right, we have another one very similar. 18 and 5/16 minus 7 and 3/4. So as always, the first thing we need to do is make sure we have the same denominator, right? So this is 16ths and this is fourths. I can change them both to 16ths, right? So 18 and 5/16. I'm having trouble writing my 5s today. Sorry about that. 5/16 minus 7. Okay, and using the frame. Some people like to do this in their brain, but they're making a lot of mistakes. So I highly, highly recommend that you just take a minute, not even a minute, a few seconds to write it down. Make sure that you got it correct. Okay, 4 times what is 16? 4 times 4 is 16. Same thing to the top. 4 times 3 is 12. Nice job. So that's going to be 12/16. Okay, so then we'll do our subtraction. 5 minus 12. We can't do that, right? We can't do 5 minus 12. So as I showed you in the last slide, let's borrow, right? Instead of 18, we're going to take it down 1 because we're taking 1 away, right? And now we have 16/16. Why 16/16? Because we're using 16ths, right? We're using 16ths. And we're just going to add that on to our 5/16. Don't get confused about the addition. We're just putting it together, right? I don't like that little line down there. Let's see if I can get an eraser. There we go. Just makes it look kind of like a 12. There we go. All right. So now we have 16 plus 5. That's 21. You can count it up on your fingers if you need to. 21/16. So 17 and 21/16 minus 7 and 12/16. Now we can do the subtraction because we can subtract 12 from 21, right? And no problem with writing it down to make sure that you got it correct. You don't always want to do things in your brain because you might make a mistake. All right? 11, right? Because a 1 minus 2 can't do that, right? Just like we can't do 5 minus 12, we can't do 1 minus 2. So we borrow, make it an 11. 11 minus 2 is 9, and 1 minus 1, so just 9. Okay, so that would be 9/16, and 17 minus 7 is 10. Okay, so there's your answer. And of course, as we said in the last one, make sure you have this written down, right? Like we said in the last one, we have a lot of different ways that we could do that. I want you to think about which one you think is the most efficient. Which one would you like to use, including the borrowing method that I just showed you, right? And they're all here on the screen. You are welcome to pause the screen and study any of them that you need to. Here they have some nice names for them, explaining how the different methods work. You are allowed to use any method that you want, right? So use the method that is most efficient and makes the most sense to you. All right, thanks for watching the video. I appreciate your hard work, and I'll see you soon. Aloha.